Now available in paperback and Kindle. Vampires stalk the darkness of the Eternal Night. Get your copy of Eternal Night in paperback and Kindle on Amazon.com. I was on Facebook a couple of days ago when one of my Facebook friends posted a picture of one of these black males with a picture of himself and his silicone sex doll. And in the posts that were presented, this black male had posted a picture of himself kissing this sex doll and talking about how he was in a relationship with this doll. Now, I found out that this guy was also one of my Facebook friends, and I had to immediately unfriend this individual because this individual's behavior was not only quite disturbing, but it showed a pattern and profile that I talked about as related to beta males in my book, The Man Crisis. And when I take a critical examination of those pictures that were posted on Facebook, this black male clearly was one of these males who was in definite crisis, and he is a clear description of two of the chapters I talk about in my book, The Man Crisis, the sexual frustration of the beta male, and the sexual deviancy of the beta male. Now, it's clear to me on seeing that picture of that black male kissing that sex doll and having pictures of that sex doll on his timeline that this male was one of these beta males who was sexually frustrated. And because he was sexually frustrated, he didn't understand that the thing was not to get your sexual gratification through a sex doll. It was about trying to learn the male life skills that you would need in order to be able to conduct a conversation with a woman and possibly be able to pursue a relationship with a woman. But this male didn't get those male life skills from either the single mother he probably was raised with, or if he had a father in his life, a beta male father. Because when you have a male who is out here and he's got a sex doll on social media and thinking that he can present this type of image and it's perfectly fine, it clearly shows that this male is becoming not only sexually frustrated but disconnected from reality. And I've noticed this trend as related to many of these black males who are a part of this manosphere. A lot of these black males are becoming more and more disconnected from reality, and it's really starting to show how their mental health is deteriorating. Because I've noticed over the last year or so, when it comes to some of these black males, that their mental health is deteriorating as they've sat inside of these social media echo chambers and continue to imbibe these live streams and videos where they're constantly complaining about black women. And when you're sitting inside of an echo chamber hearing all of these negative statements about black women day in and day out, it compounds the mental health issues that these males are having, and it leads to them believing that these ideas that they have as alternatives to get their sexual gratification are perfectly normal. Because in some of these social circles of these groups, like the men going their own way, the Ibmores, or the SYSBM black males, there has been this promotion of the idea of finding release for sexual gratification through these sex dolls. Now, I do not condone this kind of behavior because this kind of behavior, as I see it, is a form of sexual deviancy. And many of these black males, they are in these echo chambers believing that this is normal. However, this is a form of sexual deviancy. And with these beta black males already having deteriorating mental health, I find it to be quite troubling that you have them not only going out here and buying these sex dolls to get their sexual gratification. I also find it quite troubling that these individuals are out here and they're promoting that they're having relationships with these dolls, because that's showing me that this person is becoming more and more detached from reality, and they can't differentiate between their sexual fantasies and reality. So this is a very, very disturbing turn as related to this black male, and he can't see how his mental health is deteriorating, and because there are no objective individuals in his social circle to tell him that his mental health is deteriorating, he's sitting there believing that the behavior he's participating in is perfectly normal and that it's perfectly fine for him to post these pictures of himself kissing this sex doll and talking about how he's in a relationship with that sex doll. Now, I was completely creeped out by that picture because, again, when I look at that picture from my years of research on men, I know that this male clearly has a mental health problem beginning to escalate, and this is what's happening with him, because when you have a black male who is out here and he's thinking that, oh, I'm going to take a picture of myself with a sex doll, announce I'm in a relationship with the doll, and talk about how this type of behavior is something like putting a picture of your things like your own personal toy collection up there like it's something everybody else is doing. It just shows how detached this person is from reality and how he's starting to believe that his rose-colored perception of reality is perfectly fine, and he is clearly shows that this male is in desperate need of an intervention, because what's also happening with this same beta black male, as Mad Black 80 pointed out in his classic video, is that this same beta black male is talking about getting his passport, and he has his passport, and talking about how he's looking for relationships with foreign women. Well, it's clear to me from what I saw in that photo that this individual is not ready for any type of relationship, and his mind is in a very, very, very fragile place. Because when you have somebody who has sat inside of this manosphere echo chamber for too long, imbibed many of these very dysfunctional ideas that are presented in some of the more extreme parts of this manosphere, then you have an individual who is going to be a very dangerous individual, because when I look at his behavior, it's clear to me that he's escalating his behavior, and from that putting those photos up there, and he's also talking about he's got a passport, and I fear for any woman who gets involved with this male, because this male is not somebody who is looking for a healthy relationship with a woman. No, this is a male who is looking to participate in sexually deviant acts with women, because he now has this perception that women are objects, and he has this perception that a woman is just there for him to do whatever he pleases to her, because he has not learned that a woman is a person with her own emotions, her own thoughts, and her own feelings. And this is one of the things some of these black males who are a part of this manosphere have a problem with as related to their issues with black women. But all of those issues go back to one black woman, and that black woman is their single mother. And these mommy issues that these black males have clearly manifest themselves when you start to see a black male going out here buying a sex doll, professing a relationship with it, and then participating in sexual deviancy, and then talking about how he's got a passport and how he wants to go out here and have relationships with these non-black women and foreign women. Again, showing us that this beta black male is deeply troubled. And what's sad is many of these black males, there are more black males out here like this, and it's quite troubling because they don't understand how this reflects on black, not only themselves, but also reflects on black men as a collective, because they are in a bubble as related to those echo chambers, and they're not learning about manhood or masculinity. No, because if there were healthy, balanced men around them, healthy, balanced men would sit there and talk to that male and tell him a sex doll is not a step forward as related to your issues with women. No, a sex doll is a step towards a sexual deviancy, and it's a step towards your declining mental health. So a healthy man is going to sit there and help this guy try to work through whatever issues he has as related to his mother, and possibly refer him to a psychotherapist so he can work on those mommy issues, because it's those mommy issues that have him out here thinking that this type of behavior is the alternative, and going overseas is the alternative, when it's clear it's the big problem with him. His mind isn't right as related to women, and he's imbibed a lot of really, really disturbing and troubling information from doing things like watching all of these toxic YouTube videos from these guys who sit there and talk about black women all the time, and sitting there possibly for 5, 6, 7, 8, even 11 hours on live streams listening to these types of black males sit there and talk about the negative behaviors of black women. So this guy really is not understanding how his behavior is dysfunctional, and he's not understanding how this again affects black men as a collective, because with white supremacy out here, when they see an image like this, your white racists, your white nationalists, your white supremacists, they take an image like that and they'll plaster it all over the internet and use this as an example of the dysfunction of a black male. Moreover, some of these swirlers and other gender war types will also take this image and also post it on their social media, broadcasting it as an example of black male dysfunction on display. And they'll use that as a justification for their behaviors that are dysfunctional, like swirling, or these other dysfunctional behaviors and other behaviors out there, like some of these gender war types who use this type of picture as an example of why they think black men are dysfunctional. So this male, he really, again, needs that mental health intervention, because he doesn't understand that his mental health is in a decline. He needs serious mental help, and he needs somebody there to get him to wake up, because this behavior, when I saw it, it really was quite troubling, because this is the type of behavior I talk about in my book, The Man Crisis, And I see a slippery slope for this brother because this brother doesn't understand that he's on the road to, again, not only on the road to sexual deviancy, but to committing a possible sex crime in the future. Because there's a whole series of phases as related to this sexual deviancy. First, they go from objectifying women, like this guy does, possibly, and talking bad about women, like they probably talk about black women. Then they go get the doll and objectify the doll, participate in sexual deviancy with the doll, become detached from reality, and then they go, as they're detached from reality, they have these disturbing perceptions about women, and then as they're doing things like getting a passport to go over, possibly talk about these fantasies about going overseas, they then look to interact with women. And when they interact with women, that's when they want to go out here and not see a woman as a person with feelings and thoughts of her own. No, he starts to see the woman as an object that is a part of his fantasies, and starts to see the woman as only a player in his fantasies. And because he's participated in sexual deviancy with a toy, he then sees the woman as a toy he can participate with in his sexually deviant acts. And he's not thinking about getting the woman to cooperate with him. No, he's going to, again, do this because he doesn't see a person as a person. So this is a slippery slope, and this brother is sliding more and more down that slope, not knowing that the speed that he's participating in on that slope, and the only way to stop him from sliding any further is to get this guy some help, because he doesn't see where he's going, and he doesn't also see where he's possibly could take black men, because if it comes out that he's committed some sort of crime in the future, then what could possibly happen is this could be used to go after groups like the Manosphere and other people on social media. Then people don't understand how this man in crisis could lead to a crisis overall for black men all around, and how this could further stain the image of black men all around. Now, I know that there are a lot of brothers out there who are sexually frustrated, and they are struggling with the idea that they cannot find women to have relationships with. But this is not a healthy alternative for a man to participate in. This is something that will lead to a man heading down the road to depravity. So I haven't had a girlfriend in years, but I managed to stay active by pursuing other hobbies like toy collecting, comic collecting, watching movies. I find activities that are positive to do, in addition to doing things like YouTube and live streams, because I want to see men grow out here and thrive. And as I see it, it's about you focusing on yourself and focusing on improving yourself. And the way you improve yourself is by taking all of your energy and focusing it on a goal you want to pursue, like going out here to build a business, or going out here to pursue a hobby, or going out here and taking your money and focusing on doing something like working on a craft, going out here getting some certifications, or even doing something like taking some trade school courses. There's so much that a man can do, and if he focuses his energy on something positive, you can find yourself turning from a guy who just does stuff to becoming a master of a craft and a master of a skill. And what will happen is, as you start to do positive things, you will attract positive people to you, and you will form relationships with healthy people. And those healthy people who see the world from an objective perspective, they can help you be able to become more balanced. And maybe some of these people can sit down and talk to you and help you understand that some of these things are just not healthy things to do. So I looked at that dude in the picture, and this is a guy, again, he needs an intervention because he's a man in crisis. He doesn't understand that this doll is not the way to go, and this doll is not something that you want to be posting on social media, because when you post an image of yourself with a doll on social media, this is something that when people see it, they're going to be disturbed by it. And when people see you with this doll, they're not going to see you as somebody who they can trust. I mean, if this guy also says he's employed, and he really needs to think about something as related to his employer. If your employer sees this picture of you, this employer is going to fire you because this picture shows them a possible not only shows them a sexual deviant, but shows them somebody who they could be liable for if he commits a sex crime on the job. And in this era of Me Too, this is not the kind of picture you want to be posting on your social media, because this kind of picture is the thing that a woman who works at your company can take to HR, and she can use that picture to get you fired. So this guy, again, he's a man in crisis. He's a man who desperately needs help, and he's a man that he really needs to get some guidance, because it's clear to me he's been sitting in that echo chamber way too long. And because he's been sitting inside of that echo chamber, he's believing many of the ideas he hears in this manosphere are things he can do in reality. But the reality is that this is a guy who is in very, very deep, deep trouble, and he desperately needs to get some help. Now, if you want to learn more about the disturbing behaviors of beta males like this and what causes them to participate in these kinds of disturbing and deviant behaviors, you can pick up my book, The Man Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find The Man Crisis on Smashwords, the iBookstore, and Google Play. And if you want to see me make more videos about men's issues, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, or my Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.